Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my corner of the multiverse. You've reached the Salty Goddess Podcast, your hump day guilty pleasure. I'm Ann Margaret Perry. I'm your hostess with the mostest, and welcome. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share every opportunity that you get. All right, so this week, what are we going to talk about? Last week was pretty hot. A lot of you had tons and tons of questions that you sent over to me, some goals, some ideas for future podcasts. You guys were very verbose this week, and I appreciate all of the engagement and all of the feedback. For me, hearing from all of you just verifies what I've been thinking all along, which is that y'all need more of this, and it's good for you. So, because of the volume of responses I got, the volume of questions I received, I decided that this week's forum or a format for the podcast was going to be me answering some of the burning questions that came across. Because actually, some of these questions, 2, 3, or 4 of you asked them or similar topics. So let me get right down to answering some of these questions for you. And then we're going to talk about some things that are going to be coming up. Because believe it or not, I actually do get really excited and thrilled when amazing things are happening. And while I am a fan of not discussing things too early in their development so as not to disappoint, there are a lot of things happening in my multiverse, in my corner. So I want to share those with you and share a few other podcasts and books and things that have come across my purview the last few weeks. So one of the first questions I received was, and Margaret, you call out performative bullshit like it's your side hustle. Newsflash, friends, it is. What's the difference between faking confidence and building competence? And why do so many people get it wrong? Well, faking confidence is like spraying perfume on a pile of dog shit. You might mask the smell for a moment, but everyone still knows it's just dog shit with perfume sprayed on it. So it's like floral dog shit. When you build competence, you're stacking bricks that are skills one at a time and build a foundation of who you are and what you are. And once you have those skills and they're built, you don't have to fake anything at all. And people get it wrong because they're addicted to shortcuts and applause, and they think that there's something wrong with asking for help or needing assistance or saying that you don't know, because that's what we were taught. I promise you, needing assistance was a sign of weakness, is what we were taught. Especially if you listen, I'm 57, okay? And anybody that's my age, we're taught the same things for the most part, which is never let them see you sweat, never let them see you cry, never let them see a sign of weakness. But the truth is, well, maybe not the crying part, but needing assistance, there's nothing wrong with that because everybody needs it at one time or another. Okay? One time or another. Okay? So nobody wants to appear weak. Nobody wants to appear as though they are the least knowledgeable in the room. But believe it or not, whether or not you voice the need for assistance or the knowledge gap that you have, eventually it comes out and everybody knows. So you're just, delaying the inevitable. Okay. And I promise you, shortcuts and applause are not going to save you when the shit hits the fan. What does? is competence. So performative, it's bullshit. You've got to learn and you've got to dedicate yourself to your skill or your craft. Whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing or learning, you need to dedicate it. And, I get it, everybody. There are times that doesn't work for us. Other things take precedence over our complete and utter dedication or focus on something. But at the end of the day, if you're not really putting in the time, you're not going to build those skills or that competence. So you'll always be running behind the 8 ball, if you will. All right. So trust me. That's why my tagline is creating confidence and competence, because you can't be confident in bullshit. All right. Except for the fact it's going to stink. All right. So one of the next questions I got was, if someone said to you that they're fine, what is the first thing that you'd say to them? And 9 times out of 10, what I would say is that if you were actually fine, you wouldn't need to announce it. Okay? I'm fine is code for I've shoved my feelings so far down, they're tap dancing on my anus. Okay? For some, that might work. That might be a coping skill for some individuals. And it works well for them because once they tamp it down, it doesn't come back. But for most individuals, it's not a coping skill. It's an avoidance skill. And you're not fine. And eventually, those things will come back and bite you in the ass. They will resurface at the moment you can least handle it resurfacing. So if you need coping skills, start working towards building them. But if pushing away your feelings is your coping skill and they won't come back later on, like eating gas station sushi or some shit, okay? If it won't come back on you like that, then you're fine if you're able to function. But if it comes back on you and it leaves you unable to function, that's when you have a problem. So you got to learn to build those skills. Okay? I hope I answered that question for you. Executive dysfunction is trending on TikTok. And as you know, those of you that have been listening in heard me go through the 8 dysfunctions, explain what they look like, what effect it has on each of the different areas in your life when you have executive dysfunction. And then I hopefully gave you some action items that you could actually work on to help relieve yourself of those dysfunctions. So executive dysfunction is trending on TikTok. You treat it like a full-blown intervention. What is the biggest myth about executive dysfunction? And what's the ugly truth that we need to hear about it? So first, I'm going to start with the myth. And a lot of the things that I discuss in this podcast, in these episodes, have either happened to me or to a close family member or to a close friend or a loved one. So I've experienced a lot of these things, or these discussions have come up with important people in my family. So, or my close friends. So when I say family, just understand that's what I mean. People that are close to me. So all of the things that you're hearing for the first time on the podcast, I promise you, my children, grandchildren, friends, lovers, spouses, all of that, they've been hearing this for years. So this is nothing new to them. But the executive dysfunction conversation was new to a lot of people, because the myth is that people that suffer with executive dysfunction are just being lazy. And I'm going to, stand up and say, I didn't understand it either until I did some research. I did think that I thought that other people were lazy. I didn't understand that even I have some executive dysfunction, but I've taken the time, unbeknownst to myself, to find workarounds. Nobody came to me and said, Anne Margaret, I noticed that you have, time management issues. Nobody told me that. I realized it myself when I was late for everything. I said, this has got to stop. I've got to do something and make sure I'm not late all the time. Okay. So understand that a lot of things that came up, especially when we were talking about executive dysfunction, things that I had experienced. So the myth is that people are just lazy. The ugly truth is that your brain literally got drunk, lost the car keys, and is trying to drive you home blindfolded. Theoretically, okay? It's not laziness. It's literal just sabotage dressed up as safety when people say that. And when you don't intervene, your potential dies a slow, pitiful death. So just like any other issue in managing it, whether it's a health issue, whether it's a substance use disorder issue, which is also a health issue, a medical issue, you have to acknowledge it, recognize it, diagnose it so that you can treat it. That's just how it works. If you walk around in denial because you're offended that someone points out that you have executive dysfunction, and so you kind of double down on that, well, that shit's on you. But you'll lose jobs, you'll lose friendships, you'll lose spouses. You're just not going to be successful if you do not manage it. So go back and listen to those episodes. There's 7 of them. Okay. They lay it all out. I know that for a lot of people, that discussion about executive dysfunction was boring to some people. I get it. Not everything is exciting and thrilling, and you're not going to be like, cracking up every single time we have a discussion here, but it was important to bring it out into the open. And now, as you know, it's trending on TikTok. So executive dysfunction is real, my friends. Let's get a handle on it, please. Okay. All right. So hope I answered that question for you. I've said there's no awards for living a performative life. Why do so many people keep chasing trophies that don't exist? You're not going to get a Golden Globe. Okay. I promise you, for being performative, unless you're a fucking actor and you're in a movie. Simple. All right. People love cheap dopamine hits more than they love real progress. Likes, gold stars, and fake affiliation and affirmations feel good in the moment, but they don't keep the lights on. They don't fix your relationships. They don't heal your traumas. It doesn't fix anything. And you can polish a participation trophy all damn day long, but it's worthless when you're talking about life. And I've had individuals who I've known say to me, oh, I'm working on it. Oh yeah, I'll do better. And it never, ever, ever really gets better. It's good for 7 to 10 days, 14 days. And then each of those other behaviors come in and they creep right back in because they weren't serious about those changes, about those improvements. So that's performative. Saying one thing and doing the exact opposite or different than what you said, it's bullshit. So stop lying. Stop lying to them. Stop lying to yourself. Fix it or get the fuck out. It's that simple. Stop wasting everybody's time. Because what? Time is your most valuable currency. Okay? And if you wouldn't spend money on a cheap pair of sneakers, why would you spend currency on someone who is performative? And performative is just really a nice way of saying they lie. It sounds good in the moment. They really do want to be different. They want to be better. They want to be more. They want to show up. But when push comes to shove and it's time to do the work that's involved, they show you that their promise to you wasn't worth shit. And they just give up. So that speaks volumes. So stop chasing, trophies that are not in existence, because they're not. I hope that answered that question for you. All right. So somebody else decided to ask me about my branding. So your brand is salty, savage, and unapologetic. But you also talk about healing. So how do you balance calling people out while still calling them forward? That's the question. Think of it kind of like CPR. I might break your ribs if that's what it takes to get your heart beating again. So calling people out, those are chest compressions. Calling them forward is a breath of air that follows. If I stop at one, CPR won't be successful. But if I give you both and I do it well, you got a fighting chance. So, yep, I'm salty. Yep, I can be savage at times. Today, somebody texted me and said, "Oh, I completely forgot I had this appointment today." And this was my response. Did you put it in the calendar on your phone? Did you write it in your notebook? And before you made these other plans, did you consult that calendar and that notebook? And their response was, well, and I said, well, nothing. This is the result of a disorganized brain and disorganized habits. And until you take it seriously, you have only yourself to blame when you miss that really important appointment. Might I suggest you phone them and ask for forgiveness, because you're going to need it. Did it seem snarky? It wasn't snarky. It's an honest assessment. The soft conversations had already taken place with this individual. Now I'm done. I'm going to have this conversation with you. It's not a lie what I've said. You are disorganized. You have a disorganized brain. You have executive dysfunction. It is time for you to get that shit under control, or it's going to end up costing you dearly. So stop forgetting. And stop saying, oh, it's just the way my brain works. You can train your brain to do different. You can. And you can train yourself to stack habits to make things better for you. You just choose not to. That's the lazy part of executive dysfunction, if you ask me. It's realizing and knowing and being aware that you have a problem and never doing anything about it, and then just scoffing it off like it's no big deal. Everybody will just have to accept me for the way I am. Bullshit. No, they don't. Get your shit together. Stop fucking around. Christ almighty. All that's holy. Do something about it. All right. Now I got another question here. It says, let's talk self-sabotage. Why do smart, capable people keep tripping over their own shoelaces on the road to success? Oftentimes, success means responsibility. It means visibility. And it may mean that other individuals have expectations of you. So while they want success, they may not want all of the things that go with it: responsibility, visibility, and expectations. I became a nurse practitioner. I'm pretty sure my family expected me to work as a nurse practitioner. With that comes a lot of responsibility. And other people having expectations of your earning potential and other things tied to that. So sometimes for individuals, failure is safer for them than success. If I had failed to become a nurse practitioner, I've already been in the role that I had been in for many years. There are no new expectations. There are no new responsibilities. So it's safer. So we trip over ourselves and then we kind of laugh it off and say, well, it just wasn't meant to be. It's what, the multiverse had in all along in the plans. But the truth is, that's not what happened. It's that your fear keeps you in failure. All right. And the only failure, in my opinion, truly, is when you quit. That's it. Okay. So I hope that answers that question. That's why we often see individuals who start different degrees or certification programs or, pretty much, a hobby or a new skill, and then they stop and they just couldn't do it. That's what it is. All right. This next question says, oh, you're bold about boundaries. What's the most common boundary people think that they have set, but in reality, they haven't? Okay. So when you say to someone, I told them not to do that, just so you're aware, that's not a boundary. It's a suggestion. When you set a boundary and then don't enforce consequences when someone crosses that boundary, it's lip service. It's more of that performative bullshit I was talking about earlier. So until you attach teeth to it, it's nothing more than a polite plea. And I got news for you. Polite pleas won't keep a coyote out of your yard eating your livestock. Boundaries with consequences for breaking those boundaries can keep that coyote out of the yard and away from your livestock. So when you set a boundary and someone crosses it, but you do nothing about it, well, that's on you. That's more performative shit. That's all it is. So, a few years ago, I told someone to not contact me again. I was over it. Might have had 20 years of dealing with this individual, and they were extremely performative. They didn't understand boundaries or anything else. And I cut off contact with this individual. And they attempted to reach out to me again. And then I blocked them. I haven't spoken to this person since sometime in 2023. I don't have time for that crap. Though they crossed my boundary, and that was the consequence. And I have stuck to it. When I walk away and when I tell you that I'm done, I'm done. don't cross my boundaries. But for many years prior to that, I let things slide. They crossed boundaries and I just let it go. Not anymore. So I made sure that time it wasn't going to happen again. And it hasn't since then. So your boundaries have to have consequences. End of the line. That's it. All right. So this next question, if someone feels their brain is their biggest enemy, what's the first realistic step that you'd give them toward peace and success and turning their enemy into their friend? Turning their brain, that's the enemy, right? So don't negotiate with your brain. Your brain is a hustler. It'll convince you that Netflix and chill and nachos and doom scrolling until 3 a.m. is the party you should be attending. So believe it or not, the trick is in structure and discipline for your brain. And don't be seduced by it. Write it down, set the timer, commit to the next step. You don't have to commit to the finish line, just to the next step, because discipline beats brain drama every single time. I tell the same thing to my weight loss clients. Your brain is the strongest organ in your body. And when you build the discipline to ignore a food noise, because you've had the protein you're supposed to have, the calories you're supposed to have, but you still think you want to go munch, once you build the discipline, you can say to your brain, I fed you, you're full, and you're not getting anything else. It's about discipline. So don't let your brain seduce you into thinking doom scrolling, Netflix, nachos, and chill is the answer. It's not. Okay? All right. Next question. This person has asked, it says, you talk about your father's lessons, like the deposits in a relationship bank account. If someone is in emotional bankruptcy, how do they start over? So first, let me say, stop making withdrawals on accounts that you cannot cover. You can't demand intimacy, trust, or loyalty when you can't deposit honesty, effort, or consistency. Does that make sense? You can't expect or ask for anyone else what you are unwilling to give. Okay? You can't. Because I promise you, over time, those withdrawals and the failure to make a deposit will end up in the closure of that account. All right? So start small. When you're in a relationship, and that's what this person is asking me about. So they're saying, if your partner and you're emotionally bankrupt, okay, how do you start over? And there's only one way to start. One foot in front of the other, start small. Daily deposits of truth, respect, and presence. And over time, the pennies of those efforts will turn into compounded interest in your relationship. But I will tell you that you have to commit both parties to working through that, understanding it's not always going to be a deposit. There could be a withdrawal in there somewhere. And that is human nature and behavior. The question is, how far are you willing to let that slip take or go before you say, okay, now we are done. You're bankrupt. I still advanced you a line of credit and now it's gone. All right. But when you're talking relationships, when you've hit rock bottom. So, so for those of you that aren't following the metaphors here, when you've hit a real shit storm in your relationship, but you're both still trying and attempting, and you're not yet ready to give up, make those small steps with truth, respect, presence, honesty, effort, consistency, and loyalty. Understand it is not just like a trajectory that's a straight line. It goes up and there might be a couple dips, much more like a roller coaster ride. But those dips shouldn't be extreme. Okay, they shouldn't be extreme. And that's how you know if someone is showing up and being present and really working towards that future that you discussed, and they're not being performative. Okay? I didn't know I was going to be a life counselor, but here we are. Okay? And then this one other question that I got was, what's one audaciously authentic, salty truth you wish your audience would tattoo on their foreheads so they'd never forget it? Well, I want you to know this one thing. And it actually was said in a conversation this morning. I said to someone, if it's not funding me, feeding me, bringing me peace, or giving me an orgasm, I'm not interested anymore. Time is short, friends. And you shouldn't be dealing with that kind of fuckery. Okay? So, if it's not funding you, feeding you, bringing you peace, or giving you an orgasm, walk away. It's that simple. All right. Now, on to the exciting stuff that's going to be happening in the upcoming weeks. I have a few more conferences that I'm going to have to go to. So some of you will see me in New Orleans and a couple of other places around the country. I'll be in New York as well. We've got some books that are on Amazon. We've got the Salty Goddess coloring books for therapy. There's 2 up right now. There will be a couple more coming in the next few weeks. And we've got another author, Mr. Rob Ronsky, who's written a couple of books about transforming your life and finding out that you're in sales or working from home or now a leader. And it is completely and utterly unexpected. He will work with you in these books to show you just how you can navigate those new responsibilities and new perspectives. And then one final push I'd like to talk about is Southern Back Porch Bitchin' Podcast, coming at you out of Virginia, and a friend of mine. And I'd like you all, his name's Patrick Parker, to go find him and follow him and listen to his podcast, because I have to tell you, the first couple episodes have already made me giggle. They're going to tickle you, I hope, the way that they have tickled me. So get out there, find them on Instagram and maybe some TikTok, a little Facebook, and Threads and all those other social media platforms. But you can also find them on Spotify and some other places where you get your podcasts. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming out, showing up, listening week after week after week. I know you're out there, and I want to thank you very, very much. Hopefully we will get you some more video footage and some other social media content and a few extra surprises right before the holiday this year. And I hope that, like me, you all are looking forward to Pie Week, which is coming up very soon. And I can't wait. All right. So until next week, stay salty, savage, authentic, and happy. I'll see you all next week in my little corner of the multiverse on Hump Day for your new guilty pleasure. This is the Salty Goddess Podcast, and I'm Ann Margaret Perry. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Take care.